freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearms.com, your nationwide hometown gun shop. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. We're doing a series called Ameri-CAN, talking about the can-do spirit that is part of our American DNA.
Absolutely. Our lives have just been completely upended with this whole COVID-19 coronavirus thing. And we're being told constantly about all the things we can't do and the places we can't go. But our guests during this series are experts in their field and telling us, encouraging us about all the things we still can learn and grow, train and connect and expand our freedoms in ways that maybe we haven't even thought about before. Well, our guest today is Mona K Oshana. Mona is the co-chairwoman of American-Assyrian Republican Coalition of Arizona. That is the AARCA. Her family escaped from the cruel totalitarian rule of Saddam Hussein, and she speaks from personal experience the anguish and suffering of her people then and now in Iraq today, a view that's rarely seen or covered by the media. Mona offers a true glimpse inside of Iraq, beyond the controversy, beyond the politics, to the heart of the country and the people. Welcome to the show, Miss Mona. And did I say your last name correctly?
You sure did, Cheryl. And Dan, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the program. It's great to have a voice. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. It's great to be living in the greatest country in the world, the United States of America.
Oh, well, amen to that. I love that. And, just before we even dive in, I see the amazing, beautiful red, white, and blue flag hanging there behind you. I see another flag as well. Could you talk to us a little bit about what that flag signifies?
Thank you so much for asking me. I take great pride in speaking about that. Behind me, of course, is the flag that saved me. And to my right is the flag of a stateless nation called the Assyrians. And I like to showcase it because the world basically has really either abandoned or forgotten about a struggling nation that continues its plight to survive and its existence in the Middle East. So thank you for asking me. That flag is there so that the world can ask, what is that? Or who is that? So that we are, again, proud to say that we are Assyrians, and the enemy might have tried to annihilate us, but we are still here, and that flag is flying, and flying in no other country than the greatest country in the world that allowed us that freedom to be able to fly that flag, the Assyrian flag. Thank you.
Oh my goodness!
Mona, I know your
goosebumps.
Your parents were in Iraq, and they came here. Were you born then, or did they come and then you were born here?
No, we immigrated to the United States, all 10 of us. My dad was brought by my mother, screaming and hollering and dragged, basically, because he didn't want to leave. He was about to retire from the petroleum company that he was working in, and no, he did not want to come. But nevertheless, it was 10 of us. My mother had a premonition from God. She saw the signs, the dangers, and it was one of those faithful women of God that heard God's voice to say, get out. And she got all of us out, despite my father's, of course, opposition. She got my brother out first, who was about to be enlisted into the Iraqi army. And then we followed after And then my dad, 20 days after we left, my dad followed, of course, had no choice. But yes, thank God, I call my mother, my late mother, who died a few years ago, my Lady Liberty. Not only did she give me life, but she gave me liberty. If it wasn't for my mother, I wouldn't be enjoying, and our family wouldn't be would not have survived and enjoyed the liberties that we have here in America.
Can you imagine? I mean, everyone, think about this. 10 people that uprooted from their house, all the comforts that the little comforts that you had, but it was yours, call your own, right? To just blindly come to another country.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I often say this, and people don't, because America was the lighthouse of the world. It is where the world looked to for a great example of liberty and justice and pursuit of happiness. And so I always tell people, we were Americans before coming to America because we believed in the democratic republic way or lifestyle of America. And so even though you say in the comfort of our country, that comfort really was not comfort. And we didn't know the difference until we came to America and we said, aha, this is liberty. This is what it feels like to be free, because we knew no other comfort. It was our comfort zone only because we knew no other way of life. Right. And so, yes, I mean, it was a privilege and an honor. And I often say I have survivor's guilt, because how fortunate was I and my family that we were able to survive those atrocities, the struggle, the plight, the regime of Saddam Hussein, while others left behind. So,
amen to that. My goodness.
And your brother was to be enlisted in the Iraq army, and you were able to get him out. That is awesome story. That's great.
Not get him out. I mean, I give glory to God first and foremost, but I received my faith from my mother because she instilled in us the faith of Jesus Christ and the Christian faith, of course. But it was all my mother, illiterate mother, a woman who didn't speak English, who spoke Arabic fluently, which was rare for her age, the generational people in her generation. But nevertheless, processed documentations that she could not read, but yet knew the dangers that was coming, got him out first. And don't ask me why, because it was just short of miracle that how my mother got everybody out and got the rest of us out. So my hero, truly my hero, in heaven now was my angel, but on earth, my mother.
And she faced risk to even believe in Jesus Christ in Iraq, right? I mean, wasn't that kind of against the law?
Yeah, well, as Assyrians are Christians and pretty much conservatives from the start, from the get-go. We are, as a whole nation, Christians, and our Christianity, we converted to Christianity since the 1st century. So we were one of the first believers. And so being a threat, yes, we suffered many, many genocides, many persecutions, many governments that took over Iraq and the region. When we were there, it was called Mesopotamia, it was called Babylon, it was called the Assyrian Empire. So the Assyrian warriors put down their earthly sword and took up the kingdom of heaven. And so we are proud to say, since the beginning, St. Thomas brought us the faith, that one of the disciples, we converted to Christianity as a whole, our leadership, our king, our monarchy, up until today. So we have a very, very wide and spreading roots of our faith, the tree of our faith, so that, yes, it was a threat. It's always been a threat. One of the things, like our founding fathers here in America, we escaped because we were religiously persecuted for our faith. As many of you were only able, or I should say many of the West or the world was able to find out later through the the atrocities and the killings and the beheadings and the atrocities of ISIS, that how unfortunate it was to live in Iraq. Just to say, and just a bit of a disclosure, I didn't see any of that myself in Iraq because my mother had the wisdom and the inclination from God to leave, but that's what we could have suffered. And so you see before you a survivor of that atrocities, of those persecutions.
Well, Mona, Cheryl has a bunch of questions, and I kind of overstepped all of that, but I just want to tell you, thank you to your family. Thank you to your mom for bringing strong people to our country to help us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You are, Mona, a proud American. I mean, just looking at the flag behind you, and a proud Republican. I've listened to so much news that tries to tell me that Republicans we're all a bunch of racists, right? We're all anti-immigration. But knowing you makes what the news tries to tell me seem really highly untrue. So talk to us about how you came to embrace conservatism.
People from the Middle East, Cheryl and Dan, are particularly conservative, especially the Assyrians who we recognize ourselves as Christians, and Christians are naturally conservatives. We, again, as I said earlier, we are converts from the first century. Therefore, conservatism is not a political position for us, but a cultural way of life, more of a lifestyle. And so for us to be attacked, and for me to be attacked, and I'm most likely almost all the time attacked, how can you be a immigrant and still be conservative? So it's really attacking my culture and attacking my roots and attacking my lifestyle. Some people will politicize conservatism, and I understand that, to say, oh, you're pro-life. I'm not pro-life because I'm a Republican. I am pro-life because our culture, our lifestyle, our upbringing, our faith teaches us in the Middle East as Christians from the get-go. It defines abortion, for example, as ending a life. It defines abortion as murder. And so we are naturally drawn to the Republican Party because we share the same values. It's not a matter of a choice that I made because my family this, my family that. No. And there are Assyrians that are liberals but you know, not everybody practice their faith. And in America, you can choose to be to stand on whatever side. But as far as me and my family, we follow the Lord. We believe in the Christian faith. We are conservatives, and therefore the Republican Party is the only party that draws us in and allows us to practice our values as Christians.
So the other thing that I touched on in that question is that, you know, as conservatives, we're supposed to be so against immigration. But from your personal experience with immigrating into this country, talk to us about why you think it's so difficult for people that just, you know, sitting at home listening ad nauseum to the news, in air quotes, the news, to distinguish between legal immigration and people who are not doing it through the proper channels.
You know, and I'm sorry to say this because, you know, I'd like to have an opportunity to compare this media to a socialistic media. Seriously, I mean, it's unbelievable to me what I'm watching, and I often compare what I faced in Iraq to what I'm seeing happening in America. It's unbelievable. The short answer to your question, as far as legal and illegal, short answer is one is lawful, and the other is illegal. Listen. We escaped a lawless country. We came to America to abide by the law because we didn't have justice because of the lawlessness of the many governments and leadership that came that took and stripped us of our rights. And so as a legal immigrant, I resent the fact that I am looked at when I am supporting my president's policies on immigration. I'm a conservative and I'm a legal immigrant and a fierce proponent of legal immigration, because based on the little that I just shared with you of my background of where I came from, it is unfair, truly, for someone like us, like my family, like my mother, to risk her life. Because don't forget, I was part of that group of children, DACA, you can call it, that my mother brought me here. You can say against my will, I didn't know any better, but nevertheless, I was brought here, but I wasn't brought here illegally. My mother, despite of the dangers she faced, brought 8 children out of the dangers of Iraq legally. Because despite the imminent threat of uncertain dangers during our escape, my mother, who risked her life to get us all out of Iraq, came here. Again, I want to repeat that. We came here legally. We faced genocide, terrorism, ethnic cleansing, and something, you know what, that many people don't want to believe me when I say, we escaped and survived socialism. You know, I work to bring attention to all of the genocide survivors that are stuck and fallen through the political cracks of controversies in the Middle East. Yet, as an advocate, I always, and we always as a group at the American Assyrian Republican Coalition of Arizona, we always explain to them, we will help you, but we are in support of our president and our country's immigration policies. When President Donald Trump closes the borders, it's not because he's being heartless, but he's being a wise leader that wants to protect the citizens of the country. And that includes me and my family, by the way. So as a legal immigrant, I escaped so that I can enjoy this kind of social justice, this kind of security that I enjoy in America. So here I am advocating for those that are stuck in refugee camps all over. And I think, Cheryl, you were there when I asked where I met you at the last rally that Speak Up America. One of the questions I asked of Paul Gosar, Congressman Paul Gosar, and Adam Biggs was, what are we doing about these Christians that are stuck over there? Having in mind that I know that there are immigration laws in place, which I enjoy, and that fact that being able to survive coming here, if I want to help my nation, my immigrant nations that are scattered all over the world, I need to survive here. I need to be protected here. I need to protect my voice in order to be able to raise it. So, like I said, I mean, the mainstream media, you know, I know the president calls it fake news, but it's really a socialistic news that wants to force their ideology on you. And it reminds me of a past that I'd like to forget, because I come from that kind of ideology where a force of forcing you to do things was a way of life.
It's so true. And I love that you're giving us an example of, you know, you're questioning the elected officials, you're pressing the issues that are important. You're not just like, oh, Andy Biggs is amazing and Paul Gosar is amazing and Trump is amazing. You can recognize that they are good people doing good work, but we are also, you and I both, hold them responsible for what we elected them to do, to represent us. And so I think that more American citizens can learn from that kind of an example, that we're, you know, the other side that just hates Trump for whatever reasons they hate Trump, all they can see is that we're a bunch of blind, mindless fangirls or something, right? And so we can see the good that he's doing, praise the good that he's doing. Sometimes he does and says things that I don't agree with. I can disagree with those, but overall, we can help our representatives understand us better as citizens and know how to better serve us. And I think that is what has made America great and what is going to keep America great. And I have to point out, we can see the top, those watching on video, some people are listening on audio, but there's just the top of your pin there. You've got a little pin you're wearing. So Trump with some crazy blonde hair sticking up. That's very funny. That's very cute.
Well, right below this, I got this at the Speak Up America rally, but right below that, I know you can't, I don't know if you can see it on camera, I'm wearing my Assyrians for Trump, which has become our, call for action, really, because Assyrians, for the most part, were forgotten and were never mentioned. And people think of the Assyrian Empire and say, oh, these people are gone. We still speak the Aramaic language, which is the language spoken by Jesus himself. And so as Christians, we're so proud to point that out. But, we escaped, and President Trump truly has been one of the very few presidents that has spoken to the people. And I know that the forgotten people of America in itself, I mean, he resonated with them, and He heard their voices. But for Christians from the Middle East who, pretty much feel forgotten, he mentions us. He recognizes us. He knows we're here and he wants to help us. But unfortunately, with everything that he's been attacked with, this man has not been left to do his job. Despite that, he's doing a phenomenal job. So we're proud to have been the Assyrians for Trump that voted for him and will, in fact, vote for him again this year in 2020. Mega 2020 landslide.
I love it. So many young adults in the United States seem to be actively pushing away the freedoms that our founding fathers, the men and women that fought, bled, starved, and died in order to even cause this Constitution and this Bill of Rights that I'm holding in my hands to even be written. And the young people seem to get all starry-eyed about socialism. Meanwhile, millions of people every day are risking life and limb to flee socialist countries and come to the United States. What do you say to those perhaps well-meaning people, but people who think that socialism allows for a better life than what our founders fought, bled, starved, and died to secure for us?
From what I have lived in and survived, socialism is not the solution. It's a problem. It's the biggest problem. All forms of socialism have been proven or has been proven to be a system of servitude. There is no rights. There is no equality, as they say. In socialism, and as you mentioned with these young people, in socialism, the people are truly patriotic because they are looking for a better way of life. But it's the government that becomes the problematic issue or becomes the criminal, that takes away and strips away based on those promises made that you will have equality. They strip people away from their rights. As with every instance of socialism, the people's authority lessens while the government increases, not only in power, but in wealth. So what we are facing today, and that's why I fear for my adopted mother country, America. I invite the young people to watch what's going on in Iraq. And if you haven't paid attention, please do. And other parts of the Middle East. The Iraqi demonstrations, how many kids that are on the streets demonstrating against the governments that have been killed. I want to bring focus on that, regardless of Christian or Muslim. The Iraqi people have never, since the toppling of Saddam or before Saddam, during the Ba'ath regime of Saddam, have not been free. I invite the young people to watch what's going on in Iraq and the struggle that they face. All of the chaos is a result of the ongoing authoritarian, brutal, and very heavily enforced socialistic style of government. Iraq has gone from one failed government to another as they struggle, chasing what we all want, the dream of democracy. But it all started with Saddam Hussein. As surprising as some, and don't want to hear it, and I know I've been attacked on Twitter, on social media, some people don't want to hear this, but before Saddam Hussein was known as the Butcher of Baghdad, he was the progressive socialist and the hope of the Arab world, who later became the horror of the world because he earned the name of Butcher of Baghdad. And for people to hear me say the Butcher of Baghdad was a socialist, they say, you're just overreacting. You know what? If you think I'm overreacting, study the life of the Butcher of Baghdad and see what socialistic methods he used to take over and silence an entire country in the beginning. And they will understand. So I invite them to, I invite them to study the life of Saddam Hussein and his style of government before he became a dictator that silenced everyone and said, you know what, I'm going to speak for all of you.
When you see all these protesters that are in Iraq, did I say it right? Is it Iraq? Or is it
Iraq, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
There's
see all
Iraq
the protesters,
and Iran, where I'm from, Iraq.
Okay. And there are people protesting and they're being shot, killed, imprisoned, tortured, whatever. And what I call socialist media here is not covering that because their idea of socialism is better and they don't want to scare everybody, I think. But everybody thinks that their socialist views are better, but none of them anywhere have ever worked.
And they want to differentiate between which a term I've never heard, but it's funny to me, democratic socialism. What is that?
Right.
What is that?
Made up feel-good words.
They want to differentiate between what I survived, and they tell me, oh no, it's pan-Arab socialism, has nothing to do with the American or the Western Socialist Party. Well, let me share with you the socialism principle of the Ba'ath Party, which was a socialism principle espoused by Saddam Hussein: unity, freedom, and socialism. And I'll say it in Arabic. They used to call it wahda, hurriya, al-ishtirakiyya. The Western model of socialism, and I'm going to compare the two. You've got solidarity, which is the Eastern part, unity. You've got equality, that is socialism on the Eastern part. And the Western liberty is nothing more than the Eastern freedom. So you've got solidarity, equality, liberty, compared to the Saddam Hussein Socialism Party, unity, freedom, and socialism. Isn't that funny how they compare? They're compatible?
Oh yeah.
And socialism is just control. That's all it is. It's control of our people. And when are you going to wake up and realize that? Everybody needs to know a socialist country is a government that controls the people, period.
So this wonderful utopia of socialism that your family thankfully escaped from, you mentioned earlier that your mother was illiterate. I tend to think that probably wasn't a personal choice.
No. I mean, from my mom's generation, very few, if any, were educated. The fact that my nation was so busy trying to survive that schooling was really done either at home, if there was someone that was literate. Now, for example, my father was only 1 year older than my mother, but because he was a man, he was educated. My father spoke, was very literate. He spoke and could read and write 3 languages: Assyrian, Arabic, and English. And my dad worked for, at the time, it was the English Petroleum Company that later converted to the Iraqi Petroleum Company. But nevertheless, those, I mean, there was favoritism, and you're still in the Middle Eastern culture. A woman didn't speak until spoken to, didn't stand against her husband. So this is the miracle. This is the heroism of my mother, to stand against her husband in the Middle East, which was unthought of, unthink of, unspoken of. And so for her to have risen up above and beyond the social etiquettes of our culture in the Middle East and still got us out, again, amazing. I'm going to be writing a book about my mother very soon, but amazing woman. Now, I'm so privileged and honored to have called her mom. Seriously.
I love that. That is awesome. And so one of the other wonderful things about the place that you fled from is how, and I say wonderful in a very sarcastic way, is how Christians are treated. You are currently working to raise awareness to the plight of the persecuted Middle Eastern Christians. We don't hear enough about the imminent threat that they face of total annihilation. You and your family not only escaped from that kind of persecution, but you personally are trying to help protect Christians in the Middle East. Can you talk to us about that work?
Absolutely. And this is the part where I get emotional, because I work from the heart. And again, as I shared earlier, I have survivor's guilt, because I know that God has a plan for everyone's life. And there's a reason why we survived when others perished. I mean, I have a lot of childhood friends that are no longer, because of the fact of the life, either from the immediate effects of the controversies in Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Iran. And I need to mention all of those countries that Assyrians are suffering in and stuck in a lifestyle that they not of their choosing. My greatest blessing is my voice, is the fact that God allowed me to, and my family, to survive, is so that we can raise our voice. Because the enemy of all humanity, the fanatical terrorists, the Islamic fanatical terrorists, who are using their Islamic faith to cause chaos, death, and destruction, is after one major plan. And the world, unfortunately, is not seeing what the plan really is. And for us to be raising up this issue, and I hope that the president hears us, the politicians, the leadership hears us. This is not just about Mona Oshana, Assyrians for Trump, and here we are. Listen to this plan. It is the plan of the fanatics to get rid of the Bible from its foundational region in the Middle East, because that's where it was founded. The three major religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? The fanatics hate the Jews and want to get rid of the Old Testament, and the Christians who believe in both the Old and the New Testament of the Bible. When the Judeo-Christian Bible is no longer an influencer in the Middle East, what will there be? The fanatical Islamic terrorists, they can only point and enforce only one religion to take over the world. This is their plan to take over the world, because the Christians that believe since the first century and the Jews that were God's tribe from the beginning, they were God's people. Their psychotic form of archaic Islam is what they're wanting to enforce on the people, causing death and destruction. The world must support this ancient Christian community, because Israel has a dot on the map, as I call it, because they have a country. They were supported. But the Christian community, the Christian communities across the Middle East are in danger of annihilation. The Christian communities of the Middle East evangelize the world. As Americans support Israel, they must support the existence of the Christians in the Middle East. However, today the Christians feel abandoned. They are left to fend for themselves when they have been fighting. Cheryl and Dan, we as Christians in the Middle East have been fighting on behalf of all Christians, on behalf of all Christendom, against the most fanatical enemy of all mankind, one-on-one, face-to-face. The only reason we face annihilation today is how much longer could we have withstood the enemy's plan of annihilation and the attacks? You know, we have the Assyrian Church of the East, which is the church I belong to, numbered in 80 million. What the Catholic Church is today, which, by the way, the Catholic Church, with all due respect, has enjoyed prosperity and increase because it didn't face the atrocities that we faced, facing the fanatical Islamic terrorists that want to obliterate us from the world. So you have flourishing, the Catholic Church is flourishing, and you have our patriarch who was ostracized and kicked out of Iraq 80 years ago, brought his headquarters back into Iraq because of this attack and because of the annihilation, because of stripping us of our rights. He moved. It's almost like with the 911 first responders, while people were escaping the buildings, the attack, the first responders were going back into the towers. That's what the Assyrians are doing right now, is raising the alarm and letting the world know we're still in the fire. That's why my book, Look Beyond the Fire, because a lot of people look at Iraq for its oil, for its political siting, for advantages that they have, the footing that they have in Iraq. They don't look at the people that are suffering. They don't see the ethnic cleansing. They don't see the atrocities that people are as we the people must see the hurt and the pain and the struggle of the people. So
Mona, what can the Christians do? What can we do to help?
They must rise up. They must rise up. The Bible said you cannot give a blessing to a hungry person to say, go on your way and God bless you. We must rise up. It's a call for action. Christians are, what did we do for Israel? What are we doing for Israel? We are actively working to save Israel, because with Israel is basically a eagle with one wing. We need an eagle with two wings. The Assyrians or the Christians of the Middle East can be that second wing. America must have policies. The United States, the world must recognize, first and foremost, Dan, they must recognize the importance and the values of the existence of the Christians in the Middle East before they can act. Because once you establish the importance, or you equate the Christians to the Jews, and you understand that the Islamic fanatical terrorists want to get rid of the Bible, there is no speaking to the Middle East. You're going to have a theocracy. You're going to have another Iran, worse than Iran. That's what we stand to lose. So with us pointing out what we stand to lose, what can we do? Should be an obvious answer to stand up. It's a call for action, to understand the Christians are not just an ethnic group, as some would say, Iraq is made up of so many people, but only the Christians and the Yazidis I want to mention. The Yazidis have been strongly thwarted, have been strongly manipulated or stripped of they have been silenced. And America must understand that today it's allying itself with the Kurds, which is fine. It's another group of people that are fighting for their rights, but nevertheless, the Kurds are actually taking the rights of the Assyrians and the Yazidis. And that is never spoken into in the media. Yeah. How our lands in the north, where we escaped from Saddam's Baghdad to go to the north, how the Kurds are also stripping the Christians of their rights. So this is a subject no one speaks about. No one mentions, because again, and that comes from the fact that the issues in the Middle East are not understood. And that's why we are here. That's why we mention we are survivors, because when you have survived, you have a story to tell. And who can tell that story better than what you're hearing or who you're hearing from today? Not just me, but all of the people that survived it have a story to tell.
I can only imagine, because in Iraq, you're a Christian, you're facing death, you're facing prison. In the United States, we also have a threat to Christians. There's a lot of people that are trying to get rid of the Christian beliefs that are in the United States even. But we're not even beating that. We're not even winning with that. It's really hard, but I understand, and we all need to help as Christians. We all need to help one another with whatever we can. I'll pray for you guys. I just
thank you. As Christians in America, I see we're very timid. We're very politically correct. We're afraid to hurt someone's feeling. And that's not to say that we're compromising, basically. Us as Christians in America, me included, when I say us, and I mean we need to do more, because we need to understand. And as I mentioned this, it's this lack of understanding. And the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that knowledge, for some reason, is being rejected. A doctor asked me, where are you from? I said, from Iraq. He said, immediately he thought I was Muslim, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have Muslim friends and family, not family, but like family, that will run before a bus to save my life. I know, I've seen great Muslims out there, because I've lived with them alongside them. But the doctor asked me, are you Muslim? And I said, no, I'm Christian. And I started talking about what kind, Christian from the first century. He went on to ask me, so you believe in Jesus Christ? And I said, doctor, yes, I'm a Christian. He went on further. Look how frustrating this is. He went on further to ask me, Jesus of Nazareth? You believe in Jesus of Nazareth? So Dan, when you're asking what can we do, we need to talk to each other right now internally and say, yes, I am a Christian. I am a Christian like you. Maybe, there are differences in dogmas, and put that aside. Christians are being annihilated in the Middle East. Let's get together. Let's become one body. Let's recognize we are members of one body of Christ, and at least have compassion towards one another.
Absolutely.
I agree. Thank you for bringing that up.
So you, Ms. Mona, feel very strongly for all the reasons that we've been saying, and probably more that we don't even have time to touch on, that our nation, the United States, is at a vital fork in the road, and a step to the left or a step to the right on that road is going to set the path for all generations to come. What can or should each person do in order to give our children and our children's children the opportunity to know the freedoms that brought your family and millions of others to the United States?
I love all of the quotes that on your website. Wonderful. of Ronald Reagan, one of my favorite presidents of all time. When we came to this country, Jimmy Carter was president, and following him, of course, was Ronald Reagan. So I fell in love with Ronald Reagan. I watched him throughout his 2 terms. As Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And I say that with the heaviest of heart because I am seeing a backwardness to our country that I fear. There was a fear that I always felt as a child in Iraq that I'm beginning to feel here in America. America has remained great, not only because it was established on solid foundation by our founders, but also because of the continued diligence of you and me, the people. The collective conscious effort of the people to stay aware of issues and voice our view respectfully has directed the continued victory of our republic. And so that voice is fainting. That's what I'm afraid of. That voice of reason is fainting because we are afraid of the backlash. We must never be ashamed of our American values. And that's what I noticed in the previous administration, where I became fearful in 2010. Of the shame that we felt about being proud Americans. That's why I have this flag behind me, because this flag saved me. And I'm going to shout it on the top of my lungs. America saved someone that was at the brink of annihilation and death. We are the standards. America is the standard that people look at. We are the exceptional lifestyle the world looks to compare greatness to. When we spoke of greatness from over yonder, we thought of America. We are the guide that sets the path of the world to follow. We must never be ashamed of that, never compromise those values. We cannot resign from our post, nor slumber from our duty as the people. America remains great because of the people. We the people. And anything short of that, Dan and Cheryl, is truly, truly a sad, it's going to be that generation. Are we going to be, as Ronald Reagan said, are we going to be that generation that will end it all? Thank God for President Donald Trump, because we were truly, if he had not been elected, we would have been that close to losing all that we enjoy today. And so what we're facing today is the resistance of going back and making America great again. And so for those that sit back and say, America, when was America ever great, or when did it ever lose being great? It was at the brink of losing its greatness. And I'm so thankful and pray for our president all the time. The people must rise up and continue their diligence.
Mona, you got a nerve, man. I tell you this, I
hit a nerve?
Yes, I completely forgot about the fact that the last president, I can say his name because I can, Obama, made us feel ashamed tried to make us feel ashamed to be an American and embarrassed. And I'd like to see him right now. I mean, it's just because
give him a piece of your mind.
Yes, because and that's what he was doing. And shame, I remember when we first had a gun shop, people used to say, "What do you do for a living?" We used to say, "Well, we have an auction house and a gun shop," and we'd keep that quiet. And it's just like we had shame in we were proud of our business, but it made us feel shame. And how dare them? We have a gun shop and an auction house. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up and reminding me.
I just want to mention, if I could, we must pray as Christians. Our Bible teaches us to love our enemy, and the liberal brothers and sisters in America are not our enemies, but we must always pray for them. As one of my neighbors, and I have to mention his ethnicity, he was Romanian. And when he heard my story that I escaped from Saddam Hussein, he was very, very compassionate and empathized with me. But you know what he said? It just boggled my mind. He said, Jesus Christ died for Saddam Hussein too. And that's the attitude we must have, but never resolve to not fighting for our rights to keep America, the greatest country in the world that people look to come in as a safe haven, as I did.
And it's so hard. It's hard to pray for people that cause bloodshed and try to, take away from the Christian's life. It's hard. I struggle with that a lot, about praying for people that are evil.
We're called to, though. That's
Yes.
that is part of our faith, right? Well, Mona, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all that you have brought to our minds today. I'm so thankful for who you are. I'm thankful for your parents. Thankful for the journey that you've walked through. Even the hard parts, that's hard to say out loud, to somebody that's walked through difficult things. But I'm thankful for it because it's made you who you are, and it's brought the story that other people can't just cast aside easily. It's like, oh, well, she doesn't know because, or I heard on the news, so therefore it negates what Mona's family went through.
They were there.
They were there, and you're here now, and we want to tell folks, how can they follow you? How can they learn more about all that you're working on and all that you're doing?
Well, thank you so much once again for this great opportunity to speak about a forgotten issue, really an issue placed on the back burner. I have a website called monakshow.com. I started a radio program out of my frustration of not hearing the truth about what's going on in the Middle East and elsewhere. And so I'm in the process of updating that. And of course, I'm on social media, either under Mona K Oshana, my name, or Mona K Show. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. Please follow me, because the stories I share truly are not heard anywhere, because they're not sensationalized. They don't bring ratings, but nevertheless, it's the truth that we need to face in this world. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Isn't it sad that truth does not bring ratings?
Yeah.
The truth does not bring. It reminds me of a song that the one guy did. It says, "If I mention God, my records won't be sold."
That's true.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, let's mention God. God.
Yes.
God bless America.
Yes, yeah.
That's right. I love it.
Mona, thank you very much, and thank you for coming to the United States, and thank you for coming to Arizona.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you, Miss Mona. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, that just got me all riled up when I think about the fact that we had a president of this here United States that thought that it was embarrassing to be an American.
That was then. This is now.
Were we embarrassing when we helped England and, defeat Germany? Were we embarrassing then?
Apparently. And yeah, we have some in the quilt, right?
Yes.
The quilt work of our nation. We have some stains, we have some tears, and we don't minimize those by being proud of the things that, one thing doesn't negate the other.
No.
We can be proud while also recognizing, just like I said earlier in the interview, we don't have to hero worship our president, but we can definitely recognize that he is doing some things that are truly representative of what's in this document, our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Sometimes he misses the mark, that's for sure. But again, we can take the good with the bad and the bad with the good and continually work towards better all the time. And causing an entire nation of people to feel shame over our heritage and over who we are for having been born here at the exact same time that there are people literally facing, risking life and limb to get here. How does that make any sense?
Right. And, so anytime you think about socialism, just think about what Mona's her family's gone through. Mm-hmm. Just another one, just like Venezuela and all the other things that, free is not free, folks. Free is not free.
That's the truth. All right. Well, thank you so much to our listeners. We so appreciate you. And I know that when we have a guest on like Mona, and we really lean into our Christian faith and the topic of Christianity, that there are people out there that are listeners and viewers of the show that you don't share that faith. But we hope that, no, we don't hope. We appreciate that you allow us, that you'll listen,
that you share part of our life with your life with us.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, we're not trying to indoctrinate anybody. We're just speaking about what we believe. We're speaking about what we know. And
Well, that wouldn't be very much for me.
we but we value that so much,
Yes.
and we thank you so much for taking the time to tune in, and whether you're on YouTube or Gunstream or watching us, or whether you're on Gun Freedom Radio listening to us, or one of the other audio platforms out there, thank you so much for spending that time to be with us, and then to take those thoughts and ideas that we discuss here around your dinner tables and into the chat rooms on Facebook, and those kinds of things, because that's where the messages really take hold and move forward and resonate. And speaking of our website, gunfreedomradio.com, if you go there and you click the on demand tab, you'll be able to listen. You'll be able to binge listen to your heart's content, as I like to say, to all of the shows that we've ever recorded. And if you click the guest tab, you'll be able to see a picture and a bio and links to all the guests we've ever had on. And it's a tremendous resource for you to have at your fingertips. So yes, thank you to our listeners, and thank you to our amazing guest.
Yeah.
Mona is just amazing. I want to start listening to her show. I can't believe I haven't up to this point, but the Mona K Show.
What, George? Oh, George, you just want to remind you, we can all have differences of opinions. We can all have different beliefs and views.
Yep.
But if we all just believe in this right here, the Constitution, and follow the Constitution, then I think we're all going to just do fine. And for those that don't want to do the Constitution thing, they have airplanes that can take you places that where maybe you want to be getting that free stuff. I heard that Venezuela is giving all kinds of free stuff out. So if you don't want to believe in this, there's other places. Canada. Think about Canada right now.
That's true. George that was talking to you.
Yeah,
George Washington.
Yes,
Your
he
buddy
talks
George?
to us daily.
Well, if you read the Constitution, he definitely is.
He
So, all right. Pray for our nation. Pray for our leaders.
All of them?
All of them, Dan. Even the ones you don't like. Especially the ones you don't like.
Oh, my mic quit working. Okay.
No, it didn't.
I said it.
No, you didn't. But I'll let you do it now.
Okay.
Good job. All right. Be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.